Hello students, in the last class we have studied the meaning of integration a to b of dx when the upper limit of the integration, that is b, is less than equal to the lower limit of the integration, that is a. Then after that we have obtained an important relationship which was the inequalities for integrals, after which we have obtained some deductions, 5 deductions we have obtained, and then one note on that also we have mentioned. That note was integration a to b f minus g dx is equal to integration a to b f dx minus integration a to b g dx. This is actually a result which later on we are going to prove in the theorem number 6, but we required this particular result, so therefore we have mentioned it. Okay, now in the today's class we are going to define the refinement of a partition, then norm or the mesh of the partition, and lastly we are going to prove the theorem number 1 and one corollary based on it. So let us begin with the first one, the refinement of partition. So definition of refinement of partitions will begin with. Okay, so let us suppose that P be a partition of closed interval a to b. Okay, so if P is a partition, if P is a partition of closed interval a to b, if P is a partition of closed interval a to b, then P star, what is this P star? P star is again a partition of closed interval a to b. Then P star a partition of closed interval a to b is said to be a refinement of partition P. It is said to be a refinement of partition P. Okay, when does it is said to be the refinement of partition P? So P star, which is also a partition of closed interval a to b, is said to be a refinement of partition P if P star contains P. If P star contains P. Okay, the same thing can also be written as, that is if P is contained in P star. If P is contained in P star. Okay, which actually means that each and every point of the partition P is also a partition point in the partition P star, as well as P star may have some additional points which are not in P. Okay, then only we will say that P star is a refinement of partition P. So if P star is a refinement of partition P, then we say that P star refines P. Okay, if P star is a refinement of partition P, then we say that P star, the partition P star refines P, or we also say that P star is finer than P. P star is finer than P. Okay, so if P and P star both are the partitions of closed interval a to b, and if P star contains P, then we say that P star is a refinement of partition P, or P star refines P, or P star is finer than P. So after defining this, the next one will define the common refinement of partitions. Next one will define the common refinement. common refinement. Next definition, common refinement. Common refinement. See here how it can be defined. So if P1 and P2 are any two partitions of closed interval A to B, if P1, for denoting the partitions we always use the capital letters. Why? Because whenever we say that it is a partition, it means that it is a set, and sets are denoted by the capital case letters. So therefore we use the capital letters to indicate the partitions. So if P1 and P2 are partitions of P1 and P2 are partitions of closed interval A to B. Partitions of closed interval A to B. Okay. Then P star is said to be the common refinement. P star is said to be the common refinement of P1 and P2. P star is said to be the common refinement of P1 and P2 if when does it is said to be the common refinement of P1 P2? If we have P star equal to P1 union P2. If P star is equal to P1 union P2. So if this condition is satisfied, then we say that P star is the common refinement of partitions P1 and P2. So we have defined the common refinement, we have defined the refinement of a partition, common refinement of partitions. Next we will define the norm or the mesh of the partition, and after defining that we will see some examples which will make clear all three definitions. So next one is the norm or mesh of the partition. Next one, norm, also called as a mesh of a partition. Norm or mesh of a partition. We will define this norm or mesh of a partition. Its definition is very simple. So if P is a partition of closed interval A to B, if P is a partition of closed interval A to B, then the length of the largest subinterval, okay, if P is a partition of closed interval A to B, then the length of the largest subinterval, then the length of the largest subinterval is called the norm of partition P. Norm of partition P. Okay. and it is also called as norm, or norm is also called as a mesh or mesh of partition P. Norm of partition P or mesh of partition P, and it is denoted by, the notation which we use to denote the norm of a partition P is mu of P. So this mu of P is the notation that is used to denote the norm or the mesh of the partition P. Okay, so from this definition it is clear that if mu of P is the norm of the partition, then always it is the largest length of the largest subinterval, which means that therefore we have the formula for norm of the partition, and that formula for norm of the partition is mu of P, means norm of the partition. If P is a partition, then norm of the partition, that is mu of P, is nothing but we have mu of P, it will be equal to the maximum of delta xi. Delta xi denotes the length of the ith subinterval. Okay, and maximum of delta xi where I ranges over 1 to n, where I is equal to 1 to up to n. I equal to 1 to n can also be written as 1 is less than equal to I is less than equal to n. Okay, so mu of P is nothing but it is the length of the largest subinterval. Length of the largest subinterval is called the norm of the partition or mesh of the partition, and that we denote by the notation mu of P. So therefore mu of P is equal to the maximum delta xi where I lies between 1 and n. So likewise we have the formula for norm of the partition. So after this one, the next one will move to the theorem number 1, but before going to theorem number 1, all three definitions I am going to explain by using the example also. So let us see, by considering the example, let us see these three definitions. Okay, so next one we'll consider the example which will make these three definitions clear. Example. Consider the example. We'll consider the example that let the interval is the closed interval a to b, is the interval -4 to +9. Suppose this is the interval -4 to +9 is the suppose given closed interval a to b. Okay, then if we consider a partition P, now as we are going to consider many partitions, therefore instead of mentioning just a partition P, we'll consider the P1, P2, P3 like such many partitions. Okay, so by considering one example, we are going to study these all three definitions: definition of refinement of a partition, common refinement, as well as the definition of norm of the partition. So for that purpose, let closed interval a to b is equal to the closed interval -4 to 9. Let us consider some partitions of this same closed interval a to b. Okay, so if we consider the P1, set P1, which is equal to set that consists of the points -4, -3, 0, 2, 5 and 9. Suppose this is the set P1, then clearly P1 is a partition of closed interval -4 to 9. Let us consider the another partition P2. P2 let us suppose that P2 is the set that consists of points -4, -1, 0, 3, 8 and 9. This is also a partition of closed interval -4 to 9. Consider the next one partition, set P3 is equal to the set that consists of -4, -3, -2, -1, 1, 2, 5, 8 and 9. Let us consider one more set. Suppose that set is set P4, which is equal to the set that consists of -4, -3, 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 9. Next one, consider the set P5, which is equal to the consisting of points -4, -3, -1, 0, 2, 3, 5, 8 and 9. So we observe that each one of these sets P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5, each one is a partition of closed interval -4 to 9. No doubt about it. Next one, if we consider the set P1, then set P1, if we consider sets P1 and P2, then P2 is not a superset of P1. Even though P1 and P2 both are the partitions of closed interval A to B, but P1 is not contained in P2 and P2 is not contained in P1. Therefore, P1 is not finer than P2 or P2 is not finer than P1. Okay, so P1 is not a refinement of P2 and P2 is not a refinement of P1. Similarly, if we consider the set P1 and P3, then the element 0, which is present in P1, is not present in P3. Therefore, P1 is not a subset of P3, and which means that P3 is not a refinement of P1. Also, we observe that the element -2, which is present in P3, is not present in P1. Therefore, P3 is not a subset of P1, which means that P1 is not a refinement of P3. Similarly, P4, if we consider the P4, then see each element of set P1, -4 is present in P4 also, -3 is present in P4 also, 0 is present in P4 also, 2 is also present in P4, 5 is also present in P4, and as well as 9 is present also in P4, which means that P1 is a subset of P4. Therefore, which means that as per our definition, P4 is a refinement of partition P1, which means that P4 is finer than P1. Okay, so what we got here, what we observe here, so here we observe that as P1 is a subset of P4. Okay, P1 is contained in P4. P1 is contained in P4, which means that P4 is finer than. P4 is finer than. P4 is finer than. Finer than means obviously P4 is finer means it is a refinement. Okay, these are the alternate wording that can be used as per our convenience. So P4 is finer than P1. P4 is finer than P1. So also we observe that P1 is a subset of P5 also, which means that P5 is also a refinement of P1, as well as P4 is a subset of P5. So P5 is a finer than P4 or P5 is a refinement of P4. All these statements are exactly correct. So we have considered the finer or refinement of a partition. After that, the next definition that we have seen was about the common refinement. If you observe here, P1 union P2. What is P1 union P2? P1 union P2 will consist of -4, which is present in P5, -3, which is again present in P5, -1 present in P5, 0 present in P5, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9. So here we observe that here in this case P1 union P2. Okay, here in this case P1 union P2 is nothing but it is equal to P5. Okay, so P1 union, we observe that P1 union P2. P1 union P2 is equal to P5. Therefore, we also observe that P1 union P2 is equal to P5, which implies that P5 is common refinement P5 is common refinement of P1 and P2. P5 is common refinement of P1 and P2. So two definitions we have considered here by example. So next one, third one definition was about the norm or the mesh of the partition. That also we'll see by considering the same example. So if you consider the first partition, in the first partition, length of the first subinterval is 1. Length of the second subinterval is 3. Length of the third subinterval is 2. Length of the fourth subinterval is 3. And length of the last subinterval is 4. So largest length in case of the first partition P1 is obviously 4. So therefore, as per our definition, the norm or the mesh of the partition P1. What we have, the norm of the or the mesh of the partition in case of the P1. So here it is equal to the 4. So we also observe that mu of partition P1 means norm of the partition P1 in this particular example is equal to 4, which can be verified by considering this P partition P1. Next one, if we go for the partition P2, then for the partition P2, length of the first subinterval is the length of the closed interval -4 to -1, and this length is obviously 3. Length of the second subinterval is 1. Length of the third subinterval is 3. Length of the fourth subinterval is 5, and length of the last subinterval is 1. So longest length or the largest length is obviously 5. So for the partition P2, we have its norm or mesh as, what is its norm or mesh? So norm or the mesh of the partition P2 is obviously 5. Okay, so we have mu of P2 means norm of the partition P2, it is equal to 5. Next one, if we consider the partition P3, then in partition P3, length of the first subinterval is 1, length of the second subinterval is 1, length of the third subinterval is also 1, length of the next subinterval is 2, length of the next subinterval is 1, length of the next subinterval is 3, length of the next subinterval is again 3, length of the last subinterval is 1. So which means that norm of the third partition, that is P3, is 3, which means that mu of P3 is equal to 3. In this third P3, you may have been noticed that the largest length, which is 3, is repeated here. It is for the interval 2 to 5 as well as 5 to 8, which means that the largest length may be repeated. Okay, it was not repeated in case of the partitions P1 and P2, but in case of the partition P3, it is repeated. Next we will go to the norm of the partition P4. So length of the first subinterval is 1, length of the second subinterval is 3, next subinterval its length is 1, next subinterval 1, next subinterval 2, next subinterval 1, last subinterval 4. So length, largest length is obviously 4, and therefore for the partition P4 its norm is, means mu of P4. Okay, mu means norm of that partition P4. Here it is equal to 4, and we'll consider the norm of the last subinterval. So -4 to -3 length is 1, -3 to -1 length is 2, -1 to 0 length is 1, 0 to 2 length is 2, 2 to 3 length is 1, 3 to 5 length is 2, 5 to 8 length is 3, and 8 to 9 length is 1. So largest length is here is the length between 5 and 8, which is 3. So therefore, as per our definition, norm of the partition P5, norm or the mesh also it is called, of the partition P5 is nothing but, it is equal to here 3. Okay, so norm of the partition P5 is 3. So likewise we have considered all three definitions by, explained all three definitions by considering suitable example. So after this, next one will move to the theorem number 1 and corollary based on it. So next is the theorem number 1. Now we will prove the first theorem of this paper, which is the theorem number 1, which is about the relationship between the lower sum and upper sums on a partition and on its refinement. So statement of the theorem 1 is, if P star is a refinement of a partition P. Statement is, if P star is a refinement of partition P, then for a bounded function f, we have, number first, lower sum or partition P star of the function f is greater than equal to lower sum or partition P of the function f. And number second, upper sum or partition P star of a function f is less than equal to upper sum or partition P of the function f. Okay, which means that for a bounded function f, lower sum or the refinement is always greater than equal to lower sum or the partition, and upper sum or the refinement is always less than equal to upper sum or the partition. Like such is the statement of this theorem, and we are going to prove this theorem now. So let us prove this theorem for the first part only, because if we are able to prove the first or second, any one of these parts, then the second part is very much similar to the remaining the one part. So therefore we will prove only the first part. Second part can be similarly proved very easily. So let us prove the first part. Proof of this theorem is proof. Okay, so as per the requirement, we will consider a function f which is bounded on the closed interval a to b. So let f be a function, let f be a function bounded on closed interval a to b. Let f be a bounded function defined on closed interval a to b. Okay, let P star be a refinement. Let P star be a refinement of a partition P of closed interval a to b. Means we are considering that P and P star both are the partitions of closed interval a to b, and P star is a refinement of partition P. Then by the definition, if P star is a refinement of partition P, then clearly P star contains P. Okay, then clearly by definition we have, P star contains P, which means that P is a subset of P star. Okay, so P is a subset of P star. Now we'll consider the first case. We'll consider both cases separately, but as told earlier, only one case we are going to prove. So proof of the first part then. Okay, so first part. So now let us consider that that as P is a subset of P star, we suppose that P star has only one point more than the partition P. Okay, so let us suppose that the partition P star, okay, has only one point more than the partition P. Let us suppose that the P star contains exactly one point more than that of the partition P, contains exactly one point more than the partition P. Let us suppose that P star contains exactly one point more than the partition P. Okay, and that point, we'll consider that point is xi. Suppose that point is xi. This is the notation for xi, and that point is xi, which is in ith subinterval, that is delta xi, which is in ith subinterval delta xi. Okay, xi is in ith subinterval delta xi, which means that is xi belongs to the ith subinterval delta xi, means xi belongs to the closed interval xi minus 1 to xi. Okay, because the delta xi, ith subinterval delta xi, is nothing but it is the closed interval xi minus 1 to xi. So we have supposed that xi belongs to this interval, and as xi belongs to this interval, which means that xi is greater than equal to its lower limit and less than equal to its upper limit. Okay, so which means that therefore what we have, xi minus 1, which is the left hand limit of this ith subinterval, is less than equal to xi, which is less than equal to the right hand limit of the right end point of the interval this ith subinterval. Okay, so therefore we have xi minus 1 less than equal to xi less than equal to xi. So this one. So for the understanding purpose only, I am drawing here the diagram. This diagram is just for the understanding purpose. Okay, so let us consider this ith subinterval. So that ith subinterval will be as such. So I am drawing it here, ith subinterval. Okay, so this is the ith subinterval. First of all, suppose this is the number line. On this number line, we are going to consider only the ith subinterval, because it is important for us for understanding purpose. Okay, so suppose here it is, A, suppose here it is A, left end point of the interval A to B. A is here, and let us suppose that B is here. Okay, A and B. In between A and B, there is somewhere ith subinterval delta xi. Suppose that ith subinterval is delta xi is here. Its left end point is xi minus 1, and right end point is xi. This is our ith subinterval delta xi. Okay, so we are considering that xi is a point which lies in the ith subinterval delta xi, which means that xi minus 1 is less than equal to xi is less than equal to xi. Let us suppose that xi, which is the ith subinterval, is here. Okay, suppose here it is that ith xi point which lies between the xi minus 1 to xi. This is suppose xi. If this is so, then if we consider the infimum of the function from A up to the xi minus 1, then it will be same for both the lower sum over the partition P as well as lower sum over the partition P star. Similarly, for the, if we consider the part of the or the contribution of the lower sum for the subintervals from xi to b, then it will be same for the lower sum over partition P as well as for the lower sum over the partition P star, because from xi to b the partition points are same, and from A to xi minus 1 partition points are same. Only one additional point we are considering, and that additional point is psi. Okay, so let us suppose that the infimum of the function f, as we are considering the lower sum, therefore we have to consider the infimum. So let us suppose that infimum of the function f on the complete closed interval xi minus 1 to xi, from here to here, suppose the infimum of the function f is mi. Okay, infimum is mi. Let us suppose that infimum of the function f on the subinterval, on which subinterval? On the subinterval xi minus 1 to xi, from here to here. Okay, let us suppose that infimum of the function f on the subinterval xi minus 1 to xi is omega 1. From here to here, infimum, let us suppose that infimum from here to here is omega 1. And infimum of the function from xi to xi, from here to here, infimum from xi to xi is suppose omega 2. Okay, so this one. If it is the case, then let us consider the infimum on this much intervals, this complete interval xi minus 1 to xi, and two subintervals xi minus 1 to xi and xi to xi. Okay, which is clear from our earlier study also, that infimum over the complete interval is obviously less than equal to the infimum over its subintervals, which means that this mi is less than equal to omega 1 as well as mi is less than equal to omega 2. Okay, so this relation is very important in proving the result. So therefore, so this, as told earlier, this much part or this diagram is just for the understanding purpose. It is not to be written in the examination if in examination this theorem is asked. Okay, so this one part is just for the understanding purpose. So I'll mention here. Okay, this is just for the understanding purpose. It is not to be written in the examination if in examination this is asked. Okay, this is only for understanding. Okay, this is only for the understanding purpose, not to be written in the proof of the theorem. So we'll return to the proof of the theorem. So as told just now, so the relationship between this mi, omega 1 and omega 2 is that omega 1 is less than equal to mi as well as omega 2 is less than equal to mi. Both are less than equal to mi. So what we have, therefore we have, so before that, first of all we'll write down what is omega 1, omega 2 and this one. So let mi comma omega 1 and omega 2 be the, let mi omega 1 and omega 2 be the infimum, okay, be the infimum of function f. All are the infimum of function f. Okay, in subintervals, delta xi. Mi is the infimum in the subinterval delta xi. Omega 1 is the infimum in the sub-interval which is the xi minus 1 to xi, and omega 2 is the infimum of the function f in the sub-interval xi to xi, okay, respectively. If it is so, then what we have? Then as told just now, we have the relationship between these three. Then this mi is less than equal to omega 1, and this mi is less than equal to omega 2 also. Okay, mi is less than equal to omega 1 as well as omega 2. Then as seen just now, as xi is a point which lies between the xi minus 1 to xi, therefore if we consider as the function f is bounded over the complete closed interval a to b, therefore it is bounded on each sub-interval and so on. Okay, so therefore what we have here, so we will consider only that the difference of the lower sum over the partition P star and lower sum over the partition P. Okay, so then we will consider that difference. Then we have the difference of these two we are going to consider lower sum over partition P star of the function f minus lower sum over the partition P of the function f. This difference, okay, this difference is equal to, as told earlier, that if this difference means both these quantities, lower sum over the P star and lower sum over the partition P, will be exactly same from A up to the xi minus 1. So therefore difference will be 0, and it will be also same for the both for xi minus 1 to P also. So the difference will be 0 for this part also. So difference is 0 from A to xi minus 1, and it is also 0 from xi to P. So only this much difference may be non-zero. So we have to consider difference only on xi minus 1 to xi. Okay. So therefore this difference will be equal to, so it will be equal to infimum of the function on the infimum of the function. First of all, we have to consider the lower sum for the partition P star. For the partition P star, the lower sum, the remaining part of the lower sum will be simply the infimum of the function on this subinterval, which is the omega 1 into length of this subinterval, which is the xi minus xi minus 1, plus omega 2 means infimum over this subinterval into length of this subinterval is xi minus xi, and from that we have to subtract the part of that lower sum over the partition P, which is simply mi into delta xi, and delta xi means xi minus 1. Okay, so therefore this difference, the remaining part of this difference will be only this much that I am mentioning here. So it is equal to, so this is equal to omega 1 into, okay, so it is omega 1 into xi minus xi minus 1, xi minus xi minus 1, length of that subinterval, plus omega 2 into length of that subinterval, which is xi minus xi minus xi. Okay, this is for the partition P star. On the partition P star, the part of that lower sum is this much, and from that we have to subtract the lower sum part on the partition P, which is only one term, and it is mi into delta xi, and delta xi means xi minus xi minus 1, xi minus xi minus 1. Okay, so this much is only the remaining part. Now we'll simplify this. So this is nothing but for the simplification purpose, so we'll add and subtract one term here and see what we'll get here. Okay, so this is same as, first of all I am going to write down this as it is. So this is same as, this is equal to the, we have omega 1 into omega 1 into omega 1 into xi minus xi minus 1. Okay, then plus it is omega 2 into xi minus xi, these first two terms. Okay, minus, now as told just now, I am going to add and subtract one term here. Okay, but before that, this term I am going to write down as it is. So this term is nothing but, this is m minus mi into xi minus xi minus 1. So this term we are writing as it is, just we are multiplying by this minus mi or writing in a simplified form. So this is minus mi into that xi. Okay, minus mi xi minus mi xi, and minus into minus is the plus mi x, plus mi into xi minus 1. Okay, we have written this in a simplified form. Then next one, as told just now, we are going to add and subtract one term here, and that term is mi into xi. We have added it, we will subtract it, minus mi into xi. So we have added and subtracted one term here. Okay, so it is this. Why it is so? Because for simplification, this is the adjustment that we are going to make. So we have added a term, that term is mi into xi. We have subtracted the same term, minus mi into xi. Adding and subtracting a same term means adding a 0 which will not going to change its value. So this is a meaningful operation. Okay, only the adjustment we are going to change here. So it is this. Now which is equal to, this is equal to, first term will keep as it is, which is the omega 1 into xi minus xi minus 1, first term as it is. Second term also as it is, which is plus omega 2 into xi minus xi, first two terms as it is. Okay, then if you consider this third term, we are going to write this in such remaining four terms. We are going to write in such a way that we should be able to take xi minus xi minus 1 common. Okay, xi minus xi minus 1 common. So to take xi minus xi minus 1 common, so one term is this xi and minus xi minus 1, this negative and this positive. If we take from these two terms mi common, then we will get xi from here and xi minus 1 minus xi minus 1 common from here, if we take the minus mi common among these two terms. Okay, so as told just now, from these two terms we are going to take minus mi common from the first from the second and last terms of these remaining terms, and from these two remaining terms, okay, from these two remaining terms we'll take the mi common. So that we'll get, after taking mi common, after taking the minus mi common, we'll get the xi minus xi, which is required for the second term simplification. So therefore we'll get, so this is equal to, as told just now, from these two terms, which two terms? Plus mi into xi minus 1 and minus mi into xi. From these two terms we are taking the minus mi common. So what will get therefore? So we'll get the minus mi here. Okay, so minus mi into, what is remaining? So minus mi into, so from here xi is remaining, so simply xi. First of all we are writing the positive term, and minus. This is positive term. So positive term can be written as minus into minus. So from here, minus of xi minus 1 will be remaining. Minus of xi minus 1 is remaining from this term. Okay. Now the last two terms. From these two terms, we are going to take minus mi common again. So minus mi common from remaining two terms. So if we take the minus mi common, then this term will become the positive term. So and remaining will be simply xi, and this will become the negative term, and remaining will be minus xi minus xi. Okay. So after this, now again from the first and, if you observe the first and third term, then in the first and third term we have xi minus xi minus 1 can be taken common. Okay, so we will attach these two terms and we will take this xi minus xi minus 1 common from first and third term. Similarly, from second and fourth term, we will take xi minus xi common and we will get, so this is equal to, from first and third we are going to take the xi minus xi minus 1 common. So remaining will be simply omega 1 minus mi. Okay, so omega 1 minus mi into, it is xi minus xi minus 1. First and third term we have written here. Then from the second and fourth term we can take the xi minus xi common. So remaining will be the omega 2 minus mi into, it is xi minus xi. Okay. Now observe this, what we have obtained carefully. Okay, observe this carefully. So xi minus xi minus 1 is the length of that subinterval. See here, observe in the diagram. Okay, so xi minus xi minus 1 means length of the subinterval, and xi minus xi is also length of the subinterval, and length of the intervals are never negative, which means that both these terms are non-negative. Which terms? This term I am mentioning here. So this is a non-negative term, as well as this is also a non-negative term. Both are the non-negative terms. Again observe here, as mentioned earlier. Okay, as mentioned earlier, mi is less than equal to omega 1 and mi is also less than equal to omega 2. So therefore omega 1 minus mi is greater than equal to 0 and omega 2 minus mi is greater than equal to 0, which means that remaining two terms are also non-negative. Okay, so this term is also non-negative and this term is also non-negative. So the product of two non-negative terms is non-negative. So the first term is non-negative. Similarly, the second term is also non-negative. Okay, as each bracketed term is non-negative, therefore their product is obviously non-negative, and summation of two non-negative numbers is obviously non-negative. So therefore we got this as finally greater than equal to 0. Okay, so this is greater than equal to 0. This is greater than equal to 0. Why it is greater than equal to 0? It is explained in detail. So this is greater than equal to 0. Now return to the whatever we have proved. So we have proved that lower sum over partition p star of function f minus lower sum over partition p of the function f is greater than equal to 0. So which means that the lower sum over p star is greater than equal to the lower sum over partition p. Okay, after transferring this to the other side. So finally we get, so hence, so what we have obtained? So therefore we have obtained, hence we have obtained that lower sum over partition p star of the function f, okay, is greater than equal to lower sum over partition p of the function f. Even though we considered only one point more in the p star than that of the partition p, then also we are getting that lower sum over partition p star is greater than equal to lower sum over the partition P. Okay, but partition P star may contain many more points than that of the partition P. Even though if it contains only one more point, then also we are getting that lower sum over the partition P star is greater than equal to lower sum over the partition P. Okay, so this is the first part we have proved in such a way. And obviously, as told earlier, second part is exactly similar to this, therefore we'll just mention it here. So similarly we get, this is the proof of the first part. So second part as told earlier can be just stated as it is similar to that. So similarly second part, similarly part 2 can also be proved. Okay, similarly we get, similarly we can prove what we can prove similarly. So we can prove upper sum over the partition P star, upper sum over the partition P star of the function f. Now it will be less than equal to upper sum over partition P of the function f. Okay, similarly we can prove, and this is a homework for you. You can prove this part. One hint for proving this part I will give here, and that hint is that here for proving this second part we have to consider the upper sums, and as we have to consider the upper sums, therefore in place of this small mi we have to consider the capital Mi for this small capital Mi, and this omega 1 omega 2 can be considered in capitals or in smalls also. Okay, so what the changes are there in that part, just I am mentioning here. The changes will be this that I am writing here. Okay, so changes will be in place of here, changes are in place of Mi you have to consider the capital Mi. That is the one change. In place of small w1 you can use the capital W1. In place of small w2 you can use the capital W2. Then the relationship between this Mi and W1 W2 will be now reversed, as we very well know. And what we'll get here, then here this relationship will be reversed, and you will get that this one, in this case now, this Mi, capital Mi, now it will be greater than equal to capital W1, as well as this Mi, capital Mi, will be greater than equal to capital W2. Okay, so these are the two changes. One is the change is you have to consider the supremum, and the other is this small capital Mi greater than equal to W1, capital Mi greater than equal to W2. This changes, and obviously you have to make the change here also. Okay, so this change also you have to make here. We change this place, instead of the small cases you have to consider the notations in capital cases, and in place of infimum you have to consider the supremum. Okay, means here it will be the capital M1, capital W1 and capital W2, and here in place of infimum you have to consider the supremum. Okay, so these are the changes that you have to make. If you make these changes, then obviously the difference of upper sum or partition P star minus upper sum or P, okay, then the difference of these two, which in place of the lower sum you have to consider the upper sum or P star minus upper sum or P. This difference you will get as a negative difference, means less than equal to 0. This difference, in that case, after simplification you will get less than equal to 0, which means that this upper sum over P star is less than equal to upper sum over P. This will be the conclusion. Okay, so in detail hint is given to you, so it is a homework for you. You can go for it. So today we'll stop here. In the next class we'll go for the proof of the corollary based on this one. Okay, so today we'll stop here. Thank you.